What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? And this is a special Tuesday edition of No Huddle Necessary. Thank you all so much for joining us today. Have a bunch of topics to get into. Have a ton of great guests on today. So without further ado, let's just go ahead, introduce the panel because we've got a good one set up. First up, we have Eddie joining us today. Mr. Eddie, how are you doing today?
I'm back again, and listen, man, I'm coming in hot this time. What's going on, guys?
Absolutely. And we're going to bring back a face that we haven't seen in a while today, Mr. Christopher Jordan. How you doing today, Chris?
Doing great, man. Glad to be here talking about sports, man. So it's always great to hear seeing y'all just talking about sports, and hey, man, special night.
Absolutely. Hey. And then, of course, we have another familiar face. He's won a couple times this year, Mr. Bill Carroll. Bill, how you doing today?
It's a great day. I get to spend time with some of my favorite people talking about my favorite thing.
Absolutely. Can't ask for much more than that. And then, of course, we have Mr. Chicago himself, Mr. Dan Goodwin. How are you doing today, sir?
I'm doing well, man. I'm glad to be here. Looking forward to avenging my last loss that I had when I was here.
Absolutely. You came close last time, though. You came close. Absolutely. All righty. Well, we've got you all here. We've got a great slate today for the show. So let's just go ahead, jump into the first quarter, and get everything started. Alrighty, gentlemen. So I don't know if you all have been paying attention across the league, but the league is full of young talent at the quarterback position, right? It feels like everywhere you look, some team has their quarterback of the future set on their roster currently. Some of those teams, however, are doing a rather poor job of setting that young quarterback up for success. I think the three most egregious that we've seen in the league so far are the Jets, the Bears, and the Dolphins. So I want to ask you all, who is doing the worst job of preparing their quarterback for success, for building the future, for making them the franchise or the face of the franchise? Eddie, we'll start with you.
All right, so I can't believe I'm saying this, but I have to go with my Jets here. All right, and the main reason being is that this is such a young team, and I get it. It's going to look very, very sloppy in the first year. All right, we have a rookie head coach who is still finding a way to grab a hold of this team. A rookie offensive coordinator who is not really, he's still also learning how to call plays himself. But I don't understand how he's that terrible. We have a brother in Green Bay, Matt LaFleur, who's calling plays perfectly, and we don't even look half decent. Okay, we have a rookie QB, and granted, we're asking him to do a lot. Okay, there's a lot of things that we're asking him to do in terms of pushing the ball down the field, as opposed to the scheme fit where we have to either make safer throws to get him going. But we don't ask that. We think we have Aaron Rodgers. We think we have Devontae Adams through that door, and we get burned every time. Okay, we have an offensive line that's terrible, can't sustain blocks. We have a receiving core that was at least first in the league in passes dropped. Terrible. And then now probably top 5 still. Do we even have a tight end? I don't even know. All right, a rushing game that's non-existent. One game this season so far of over 100 yards rushing. Terrible. We can't do that. So when you put in all these factors, it just shows to you how much we're not giving Zach Wilson the chance to succeed. And by the way, he is injured now. So, great thing to happen for that. Right. And now on top of that, we have to see the likes of Mike White play for the next couple of games. So I look at what we're doing with Zach Wilson, and I say that we need to simplify things more. When it comes to offensive play calling, bailing him out. There's too many plays where we're asking him to do too much, whether it be make some throws that we know that he can make. We saw it coming out of BYU, but it's the NFL. It's much more tougher. It's much more faster. So those throws may not be there. And since he has a mentality to go get it, he just thinks that, I can make this throw. And in actuality, it's not really there. That has to be down to Mike LaFleur helping him with the play calling. That has to be down to our receivers bailing him out when it comes to him putting the ball on the money and, giving him a chance to succeed. And our kicking as well, too. I mean, there's a couple times this season where we've missed kicks, where we've been struggling to sustain drives, and yet we have an inconsistent kicker in Matt Amendola. Nothing's working right now. All right, so I knew coming into this season that it would be tough anyway because of how young this team is. By the way, we also have a defense that doesn't know how to keep us in games in the first half. Terrible, but once again, I knew that coming into this season, it would be sloppy. I didn't know it would be this sloppy, but I knew it would be sloppy. Give it some time, but for right now, we're not doing the great at giving him the best chance to succeed.
All right, so Eddie's speaking a little bit of truth there on his Jets. I know that's a little personal for you. Someone else who this question might be a little personal for, Mr. Dan Goodwin. We see the Chicago Bear hat there. I think I know where you're going to go with this answer, but just so the people can know, who do you think is mismanaging their young quarterback the most?
Chicago Bears. I mean, Matt Nagy. And when you say Matt Nagy 3 times, you got to say it one more time. Matt Nagy. Matthew Nagy is a big problem. Number one, through the whole preseason, through the whole training camp, Justin Fields didn't get reps with the ones. He actually got 6 reps with the ones, with the first teamers. He was thrown into preseason games with roster, fourth stringers, third stringers, played into the fourth quarter of those games. He shined. He did his thing. He did okay, things like that. But he wasn't given the tools and the practice to actually go forward. You take a look at what's going on during the season. They haven't built an offense around his skill set. There are no bootlegs. There are no rollouts. There's no up tempo in the play calling. There's a chaotic pace that Matt Nagy uses, and Justin Fields alluded to it in a press conference where he said when Matt Nagy's calling plays, it's chaotic. When Bill Lazor calls plays, it's calm. It's a little bit more calm. We can deal with that as a team. That's an indictment on the coach. That's an indictment on what he's done. You didn't protect him in the game against Cleveland. His first start when he played that game against Cleveland. You ran all those plays, and the plays, 70% of the patterns that were run by wide receivers and tight ends were hitch routes. 70%, 3 to 5 yard hitch routes. That's what you're doing. So you're not giving him an opportunity to throw the ball to guys who are open. Not only that, 1.1 yard per play in that game against Cleveland, and it snowballed into several different games, right? Matt Nagy is also, he's upset with some of his players. Marquise Goodwin called him out after the first game against the Rams and said, hey, we played into Jalen Ramsey and the Rams game plan and did exactly what they wanted us to do. And now he hasn't been used, Marquise Goodwin, for the rest of the season. Jimmy Graham said something after a game as well against Cleveland where he retweeted something that said, hey, the Bears had 1.1 yard per play average. And since then, he's not been able to get on the field either. So you're handicapping a guy by pushing guys to the bench because they're calling you out because you're making bad decisions day after day and week after week. And that's doing nothing for this young man. It's not putting him in this position to succeed. And we've seen it, every single game, the Cleveland game, Green Bay game, this past game, every single week, it's the same old thing. And so I think it's not even close. The Jets, at least they're letting the guy play. They want to get him some things going. Even in Miami, you see Tua, they're utilizing him somewhat, right? They've made some bad decisions, but every single decision, I cannot look at the Bears and say anything that they've done that was smart when it comes to Justin Fields. You've had him for over 200 days, and you don't even know what type of player he is because, well, we know what type of player he is, but they don't know how to use him. And that's, to me, that's egregious for an offensive guru or a genius is what he wants to be called.
Yeah, he was one of the guys that had the right skin complexion that also, had some ties to Andy Reid that kind of got him that, offensive guru, quarterback whisperer type label, and he hasn't really lived up to it. Bill, what are your thoughts? Who's putting their quarterback behind the 8 ball the most here?
Yeah, so I looked really deeply into all the cases that are being presented. So the Bears are an interesting situation because, as was alluded to, they are the least efficient passing offense in football. They average a league worst 2.03 net passing yards per attempt. Now, that also counts things like, throwaways and sacks, yardage taken out. But however you slice it, that's the worst. There's only 32 teams. You can't go worse than 32nd. Now, the Jets aren't exactly killing it either. They're at 2.23 net yards per pass play. And the well above that, or semi well above that. sorry. At 3.63, you find the Dolphins, which seems like, by comparison, it's still below average, but it's killing it compared to what we're talking about with both the Jets and Bears. And then you also have the touchdown interception conundrum that both the Jets and the Bears are fighting with. Tua's checking in at 11 touchdowns and 5 interceptions, which once again isn't setting the world on fire, but it's blowing it out of the water compared to 3 touchdowns and 7 interceptions for Fields and 4 and 9 for Wilson. So the Bears' salvation is right where they already are, though. It's run the ball. They're fourth, 1, 2, 3, 4, fourth in the NFL in rushing efficiency, right? They're one of the few teams, no, not few. They're the only team in the NFL that's averaging more yards, more net yards, right, per run play than pass play. Their salvation, cast down your buckets where you are, it says in the good book, is right there in Khalil Herbert. And when Montgomery gets back, him as well, and of course, Justin Fields himself. So as bad as things are, they could fix it like that. That salvation isn't coming with the Jets. They do not have the ability to run the football. They do not have the ability to do much of anything. Here's what I will say. Fields has been sacked 22 times on 131 dropbacks. That is by far the worst. Wilson, as though he's gotten batted about pretty good too, can't even compare. 181 dropbacks, and he hasn't been sacked. He's been sacked quite a bit, don't get me wrong, but not as many times, right? He's been sacked 9 times, right? That's not great, but 181 attempts to get sacked 9 times. And Tua has been sacked 20 times, but 186 attempts. So all these guys are struggling a bit, but I'm going to have to give the nod to Wilson for 2 reasons. One is it's the most talent poor of all of the teams we've discussed so far. There's no Mike Gesicki, right? Mike Gesicki isn't quite elite, but he's a very good young tight end. He's got Jalen Waddle, who once again is a rookie, but he's familiar with him and he's very, very talented. And of course, when healthy is obviously something you can say about a lot of players, but when healthy, Devontae Parker is a very good player. Any one of those guys would be better than anyone that Wilson's throwing to. Now, we have a Jets fan here. I'm going to ask him real quick. Can you name either one of the top 2 tight ends on your team's depth chart?
Ryan Griffin and
there you go.
Tyler Kroft.
There you go. You are one of few people in America who can do that. Now, these are guys, and I'm not trying to be mean, but they should be – both of them should be reserves, right? None of them are starters, right? These are guys that struggle to see the field other places they've been before. And they are not starting level players. And I'll just roll through the rest of his targets. Well, his best receiver is either the oft-injured Corey Davis or the whitest black receiver in the NFL in Jamison Crowder, Spanish Cole Beasley, a.k.a. Braxton Berrios, or Keelan Cole. Now, these are all guys that should be wide receiver 3 or 4 types, right? Maybe a wide receiver 2 in Corey Davis. He doesn't have a single wide receiver 1. Allen Robinson, I mean, you can say what you want. Everyone in the world agrees he's a wide receiver 1, right? everybody else we're talking about has someone who's potentially a wide receiver one. There's not a single guy on the Jets roster who would be a wide receiver one on any team in the NFL. They don't have a single tight end. There would be a tight end one on any team in the NFL. And then every single running back anywhere on their roster who would be even a running back number 2 on 80% of the teams in the NFL. So as bad as they all have it, and trust me, they all have it bad, I have to give the nod to Wilson just because of the combination of paucity of talent, right? Along with other things that are, I mean, the one thing they have over the others is stability, right? No matter what, we know that the GM and coach are coming back with us. That's a good thing. But other than that, the talent on the field, the other two teams clearly have more talent on the field.
All right. Mr. Jordan, how do you feel?
Oh man, all y'all had some great points. You got two Jets agreeing. I'm gonna side with the Bears though with him because Justin Fields came into this league, not really getting many reps, not practicing with the first team, during preseason. And so watching him play this past Sunday, past couple of weeks, he's been sacked so many times. He has no protection. And then having a head coach not putting you in the right position is very tough. I mean, as far as the Jet situation, our team are kind of in the same situation, very bad. But just with Justin Fields, not having the whole reps, trying to learn the system more because with Zach Wilson had preseason, had reps, Tua had reps. He's the only odd man out. No reps. The guy's a rookie, bad old line. And just being with a bad coach too, it seemed like that, during the season, start of the season, I kind of didn't believe in him maybe. So I would say that the Bears have a worse situation. And right now, just seeing Justin Fields, I feel bad for him because being a rookie, he has no protection. People, I live in Tampa. I watched that game on Sunday. I feel bad for the kid. No protection, 5 turnovers, 3 picks, 2 fumbles, just a bad look. But just with him as far as the future with the Bears, I mean, far as the team-wise, I would say just the situation is not good itself. I ain't finna go and just crazy rant about certain stuff, but just the Bears situation is not good in my opinion.
Can I say one more thing?
Of course, go ahead.
I just want to point this out. In the last game that was just played against Tampa Bay, our starting right tackle was missing, right, because of COVID. Mm-hmm. They put Lashavius Simmons in, who had not had 1 rep with the starters, right, not practiced at all with any of the starting team, and you bypass Alex Bars, and then you put Alex Bars in the second half for some strange reason. To me, that makes no sense. You're setting the guy up for failure in that regard.
Yeah, that's one of the things that I think, which is why I think Justin Fields takes the cake here, is that it was reported after the game that, everyone was going to look at the box score and see, oh, Justin Fields had 5 turnovers or whatever. And it's well, 2 of those fumbles are literally because his head coach schemed up a 5th string offensive lineman to be lined up directly across Jason Pierre-Paul. And then on one of the interceptions, his coach is literally in his ear telling him, hey, you have a free play. There's 12 men on the field. Go ahead and snap the ball. So he thinks he has a free play, and he's just chucking it because why not? And then the other interception goes directly off of Darnell Mooney's hands. So I think Justin Fields take the cake here. I am surprised that no one thinks Tua, because
when you break it down, though, Tua's situation, it's bad, but it's nowhere near as bad as the other two. I went and looked through everything from athletic testing of the players. I mean, it's just a better team. Everyone can measure it. It's a better team. You won't believe how much I really did way too much research. Really deeply, and it's just a better team. I mean, in every way you can measure.
So let me ask you this, though. Do you think that there is something to the fact that I think Tua is probably the only quarterback in any of these situations who feels like he's not wanted?
I think he wonders about, but none of them feel super. I mean, except maybe Wilson feels super wanted. There's Fields one has to wonder why it is they treated him like a red-haired stepchild when they went, when they took him in the first round. Like nowadays, generally you take a quarterback early, you're grooming them to, if not immediately start, then to start pretty soon. And they were acting like, like this was a tough one for me because I don't have an emotional investment, even though I live in Chicago. I didn't grow up here. And I can study the Bears pretty dispassionately because of that. And I have a lot of words for Ryan Pace, but this is not the show for it. I really spent so much time on it, but I broke all these teams down, really broke all these teams down. And the thing is, the Bears' problems are solved so easily compared to the Jets' problems. Now, I admit their problems are terrible, but they're mostly self-created. Mm-hmm. The Jets' problem, they have oh my God, that team needs so much work. That roster is bad.
We get it. We get it.
This roster been bad. Since Sam Darnold, they've had a bad roster. So even with Sam Darnold there, it was still trash for the roster-wise. So, nothing's changed, to be honest. So changing the quarterback didn't change nothing. It seemed like to me, the Jets should just draft better. Have better supporting a roster around their quarterback.
They have so much work to do.
They do.
The Bears, I swear to God, all you need is the game planning obviously needs to be completely junked and replaced with, something that makes sense. They need to use some of their players somewhat differently. But I'm saying you could have a radically different team that looks completely better with, I'd say, 2 weeks worth of practices and installing different stuff. Yeah. You just can't do that with the Jets. 2 weeks isn't going to do anything with the Jets, but be 2 more weeks down the road.
Mm-hmm. I think it is. So they're all kind of in there in bad situations, but they're all uniquely different, right? Like Tua, does this team really want me, or are they just kind of hoping on a prayer that they can get Deshaun Watson and I'm just a trade piece? Justin Fields, I have talent around me, but my coach doesn't know how to scheme or use them.
He doesn't want to.
Exactly. And then Zach Wilson I have a coaching staff that's new and doesn't really know what they're doing. And also I don't have talent around me. So they're all in bad situations, but uniquely different. I like hearing everyone's thoughts there. Let's go ahead and get into the second quarter because I think this question is pretty interesting. Alrighty. So if you were to take a look at the current standings in the AFC, you would see two teams that I think if I would have asked anyone at the beginning of the season if they believed they would be there, that no one would have said yes. As of right now, the Cincinnati Bengals and the Las Vegas Raiders currently sit at 5-2, which is tops the AFC. The Bengals have been coming around, and the Raiders, even after the debacle with Gruden and his emails, have found a way to rally. They've won 2 in a row since he's been gone. Are these flukes for the Bengals and the Raiders, or are these teams actually built for sustained success, specifically this year? We'll start with Bill.
So I called the Raiders. Like I don't even remember, but I tell everybody who would listen, the Raiders are going to be good this year. And the thing that was holding them back is gone now, right? I'm not going to get into my stuff I know about John Gruden because when I was a graduate assistant at University of Illinois, I got to know a couple of players pretty well, and one of them went on to play for Gruden. And I used to talk to him about. He told me some things. I'll just leave it at that. John Gruden being gone helps the Raiders in every way you can imagine. So I said that the Raiders before the season began were going to be a playoff team. I'm not a tiny bit surprised. The only thing that worried me was health, right? They have a tendency to get hurt. They've had even some of that happen this year, but it hasn't been ravaging them like it has some other years. So as long as they could penalties, of course, being a Raiders thing, but if they don't make a lot of boneheaded penalties and don't get injured, this team's going to be good. The Bengals, I had them slotted to finish second. I thought that the Browns would slide down a little bit. And I thought the Bengals would overcome them, and then the Ravens would be still atop the AFC North. But the Bengals, once again, and let me give a quick shout out The Bengals, as some of you may already know, have the smallest scouting staff in the NFL by a pretty significant margin, actually. They only have 3 full-time designated scouts, 1 scouting assistant. Mike Potts is their director of college scouting. Shout out to Trey Brown, area scout, Andrew Johnson, area scout, and Christian Sarkeesian, area scout, and Debbie Larocco, the scouting assistant. That's it. That's all, folks. That's their entire college scouting staff, and they've done a really good job in the last couple of drafts. I just want to make it clear that a team that does a lot of things inexpensively, I'll put it that way, when they have success, it's almost always at least largely due to people we don't talk about enough, that's scouting and player development staff. They've done a really good job. I think the Bengals may wilt a little bit as we get deeper into it, but I don't think they're going to fall off the cliff. I still think they're going to end up as being a wild card team, but at some point the Ravens overcome them. But I don't think they end up, like I said, falling apart or falling off the cliff. I think both teams are better than people realized. And like I said, the Raiders, the only thing that was holding them, really holding them back, other than injuries and penalties, is now gone.
Yeah, losing John Gruden sometimes will do that for a team. Start playing a little bit better, and I think it's interesting, like how quickly the turnaround was. Like the interim coach, whose last name I cannot remember how to pronounce,
Rick Bisaccia.
Bisaccia, there we go. He's become the head coach, and this team just looks different. Like
yes,
they look
because
like,
no one's psychologically terrorizing them anymore, Dom.
Exactly. Exactly. Like they look like they're actually ready and like excited to play football.
They're enjoying playing football, Dom. It doesn't suck to go to work anymore.
Christopher, how about you? Are the Bengals and Raiders flukes or are they legit?
I think they are legit. Both teams coming to the season. I didn't expect the Raiders or the Bengals to be really good. Like, ain't a lot of Bengals should be 6-1. They should have beat Green Bay that missed field goal. So the Bengals are for real. Joe Burrow, what he's done, he has changed the whole narrative of Cincinnati because having that franchise quarterback, him and Jamar Chase together are just like holy matrimony. These two are like married. They just got it. They got it clicking. They have the long ball working. They cannot be stopped. And this football team is really good. Now, as far as the Raiders, they are for real. 5-2. They're in a division they could take because the Chiefs are not that good this year. As far as the turnover situation, or the Chargers, they can take the division. And I will say this, though. I do think that the Raiders have an easier path so they can top the division. As far as the Bengals, the Ravens, you have the Steelers and Browns. I do think the Ravens will take the division when it's all said and done, but the Bengals are for real football team. As far as the future, they are here. This year, I think the wild card team and the Raiders, they may could take that division because same thing with the Chargers, good football team at the same time. Someday they show up, someday they do show up. So we shall see. As far as the Raiders and the Bengals, they are legit and they are here. And they shot me both teams. I ain't gonna lie, they did shock the boy Chris J.
So yeah, I was gonna say I don't think I didn't expect these teams to be at the position that they are currently at coming into this season. Also, so much for Jamar Chase not being able to catch a ball. Remember when like Jamar Chase was dropping everything in preseason and everyone thought it was a problem?
Well, if you watched college tape at all, come on.
Listen, I was the one that said it. I think I was one of the biggest fans of Jamar Chase. I hated when he went to the Bengals because I was telling people, listen, people are forgetting that just 2 years ago, like this was a guy who, mind you, was on a team that had Joe Burrow, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, and the young man in Minnesota now, Justin Jefferson, and he was the best player. Like all three of those guys were on that team with him, and he was still the best player on the team. So I knew Jamar Chase was going to be legit. Granted, it's much to my chagrin seeing him do it against teams like my Steelers, but the Bengals are legit. The Raiders seem to be legit as well. Eddie, What do you think?
Very surprised. Okay, very surprised. So I wasn't surprised about the Raiders. I thought that they would be a team that. Now the Bengals are shocking to me. They really are, because I never saw this coming. And then I thought to myself, they actually have built a team that, in my opinion, is the right way possible. Now, we all came into the season kind of worried about Joe Burrow and his life and that offensive line that he's supposed to be protected by. It hasn't really been that great this season, but it hasn't been too bad. Okay. And that defensive line, on the other hand, is great. Now, you build through the trenches. That's what I believe in. All right. You build and you control the line of scrimmage offensively and defensively. And one of the more underrated signings this offseason was Trey Hendrickson. 6.5 sacks through 7 games. The Bengals defense has a total of 19 sacks. That's 5th best in the NFL right now. And on top of that, they give up only 18 points per game. Now, if you sack Lamar Jackson 5 times and you put up 41 points on the other end, how could you not win a game? How can you not? Right? Joe Burrow is playing like a top 10 QB. And I don't even want to go into Jamar Chase and what he's doing, because the way he just shredded one of the best cornerbacks, in my opinion, in football right now, Marlon Humphrey, the way he just shredded him that whole entire game was insane. 201 yards, 1 TD. Listen, you can't do that if you're not a pro like he is. So credit to him. But the Bengals have found something working for them, and you have guys, a good receiving core in T. Higgins, Jamar Chase, Tyler Boyd, and you also have a tight end, unlikely source, who is doing the business. CJ Uzama, I love what he's done so far, but the defense is really, really shocking me. It's playing above what I thought it would have been this season, and I think that's a recipe for winning. Now, you continue to put pressure on the QB, and that's how you make your drives sustained when it comes to going to the playoffs and making the playoff run. I think that the better of these two teams, the Raiders, I saw it coming, but listen, as Bill mentioned before, they now are without John Gruden. And yes, even though he is now out of that team, I feel like it takes a little bit some time. Yes, they had some 2 good wins, but it still takes some time to get rid of that mentality and that mindset that was in the organization. And I don't think it can be done over 2 games. So they had some good wins. They're 5-2. They're good. They also have some good D lineman prospects in Max Crosby, Carl Nassib, Yannick Ngakoue. I love too. But Raiders, for me, they do this every year where they play really well and then they find a way to unravel. So I'm still, keeping my eye on them, but the Bengals for me are doing the business.
Yeah, and that's something that we've talked about on this show before. The Raiders are a team that will start off 5-2, and then at the end of the season, you look up and it's like, oh, they went 7-9 and lost like 6 of their last 8 games. Now, again, John Gruden is gone. What does that mean for this team moving forward? We'll see. Dan, how do you feel about the Bengals and the Raiders? Are they legit, or are these just flukes?
I think the Raiders are a really good team. I think they're nice. I picked them to do well. I think they'll be good, but you're talking about sustaining success maybe into the playoffs, right? So I'm going to go with the Bengals on this, and the reason being is because I see a more complete team. While the Raiders do have some talent, they have some nice pieces. The quarterback, the tight end. You got a couple of nice pieces on defense. I look at this Cincinnati Bengals team, and from top to bottom, I believe that they're more suited for a playoff run. Maybe into the playoffs. Not deep, I don't know, but definitely more suited for a playoff run. You look at Hendrickson, like Eddie mentioned, 6.5 sacks. That's, he's right there among the league leaders in sacks. You got the defensive line of Ogunjobi and Hubbard and DJ Reader. These guys are able to do some things and push the pocket, which forces quarterbacks outside to Trey Hendrickson and things like that. And he gets gobbled up in that way. And then you look at the offensive side of the ball. When you look at the offensive side of the ball, you got Joe Mixon. He's a workhorse back there, man. These running backs are not they're not built like this that much anymore. You don't have many workhorse running backs. You hand the ball off to him, he's got 539 yards rushing. He's second in the league, I believe, to Derrick Henry, of course. But he's on pace to run for 1,300 yards this year. And when you're talking about playoff football, at some point in time, you're going to have to run the ball. And then, of course, you got Joe Burrow. And he has 3 legitimate weapons at wide receiver in Tyler Boyd, Jamar Chase, and T. Higgins. Those are 3 guys that could easily go to another team and be number 2 guys or number 1 guys even, right? Jamar Chase could be a number one pretty much on any team in the NFL right now. Tyler Boyd, I mean, you saw what he did last year, and they have legitimate weapons, right? And then, of course, you got Uzada, who was stepping up at the tight end position. He's going to be open because you have to pay attention to those other guys. They have a situation where they can attack any part of the field. And when you have that, because you can run the ball, because you have T. Higgins, you have Jamar Chase who gets downfield, you got a big receiver in Tyler Boyd that you can throw the ball to. That allows that tight end to catch everything up the seams and underneath. So, I think they just have a complete team. The weapons that they have on offense are outstanding. And I think it's more of a complete team. And then even look at Chidobe Awuzie, who's in the secondary over there.
Mm-hmm.
He's playing really good football right now. There were some knocks on him when he was in Dallas, but you can see that he has the talent to be a number one cornerback. I don't know about shutdown, but he's definitely has the talent to be a good cornerback in the league.
Yeah, the Cincinnati Bengals spent a lot of money on that defense these last couple of years, and it's finally looking like it's starting to pay off. I'll raise my hand and say that I was one of the people who was wrong about the Bengals as far as drafting Jamar Chase. I thought that they needed to protect Penei Sewell. Apparently, when you have Jamar Chase, it doesn't matter how bad your offensive line is because he's going to be open 24/7. I mean, dropping 200 on Marlon Humphrey's head is insane. That's something that you just don't see happen. And for a rookie to do it, it's truly amazing. And then, like I said, the Raiders, I think Derek Carr is one of the more underrated quarterbacks in the league. I think many people don't put him in a conversation that he actually belongs in. He's he's a damn good quarterback. And I think people just think
he's a top 8 quarterback. He's a top 8 quarterback. He's been never lower than top 12 in his entire career when he's been healthy, at least.
Exactly.
People just don't like him or didn't like him. I think some people were sort of turned off by thinking he was, whiny or whatever. But he had to put up with a lot. I'm not getting too deep into it. But when you have like an after dark show, Dom, I will share with you some of the things I know about John Gruden.
No huddle after dark is possibly a section that could be coming to Nuts and Bolts Sports.
I'll be tuning in for that. I'll be looking for that.
Yes, sir. Me too.
Definitely.
But Dan, all those receivers you named would all be the best receiver on the Jets.
What is this bashing? What's going on?
They're taking shots.
Doing this right now. You can't be.
I'm taking up your side, right? Because you said Wilson. I'm saying that considering his situation, I mean, he's throwing to just straight up guys. Straight up guys he's throwing to. I mean, guys who would be on a team. I'm not trying to say they aren't professional players, but none of them should be the guy.
Right. Hey, Dan, also, you got the Bears hat on. Listen, it's not too early to maybe stop thinking about football season because, this team right here, 4-0. 4-0 right now, baby.
4-0, man.
4-0.
Time in the house. Bulls in the house. They look good.
That's right.
They look really good.
With that, we're going to go take a quick halftime break here. Let the guys get a sip of water and all that other good stuff. We'll pay a couple bills. Thank you all for watching. Second half is coming up next. Make sure you're ready. We'll be back in a few.
The Team Nuts and Bolts Sports Store is officially open. Log on to www.teamnbsmerch.com and get your t-shirts, hoodies, polos, all sizes available. Once again, log on to teamnbsmerch.com. Get yours today.
Want you to see everything, want you to see all of the lights. I'm trying to tell you about all I can say.
Alrighty. Dan made the change. You know what, Dan? Just for that, I'll throw mine back on too. I know this is a football show, but listen, man, I got to show love to my Bulls when we show out. We're 4-0 right now for the first time. I've never seen the Bulls go 4-0 in my lifetime. I'm 24 years old. This is the first time the Bulls have gone 4-0 in 25 years. So I'm pretty excited about the team, man. I'm pretty excited. So with that being said, yes, Bill, I'm relatively young.
I keep forgetting.
I think we all young to the OGs. I'm young. I think we all young to the
There you go.
OGs
Hey, listen.
Jets.
I appreciate that Eddie isn't gonna allow us to bully him about being a Jets.
Stand strong.
Loud and
There you
proud.
go.
Stand strong.
About to get my hat on y'all.
Yeah.
There you go. Everyone rep your teams today. Everyone rep your teams.
I'm about to get my
All
hat.
right. With that being said, let's go ahead and get into the third quarter. All right, so Russell Wilson is going on week 2 of doing this really weird thing of doing 2-minute drills with his imaginary friends before the game, which, I mean, listen, I love Russell Wilson. I think he is one of the 3 best quarterbacks in the league. The fact that he's never received a vote for MVP is insane. But this is just like peak Russell Wilson. Like, this is the reason why some people hate Russell Wilson. Because it's like, dude, why? Just sit on the sideline like a normal person and rehab your finger. But no, Russell has to go through and take imaginary snaps with his imaginary friends and call plays because, of course, Russell Wilson does that.
Yes.
But Russell Wilson is not the starting quarterback for the Seattle Seahawks currently. As of right now, it is Geno Smith. And outside of really one good drive against the Los Angeles Rams that ended in a touchdown, Geno Smith has not looked good in Seattle, which I don't think surprises anyone. Now, the Seahawks have been linked. Pete Carroll has spoken about maybe talking to Cam, bringing him in as a possible option. So I'm going to ask the question to you all. Should the Seahawks look into Cam Newton? Should they bring him in? Should they stick with Geno Smith? Or maybe is there another quarterback that they should go out and grab to hold the fort down while Russell Wilson is still playing with his imaginary friends? We'll start with Chris.
Well, I say this. Geno Smith is not a starting quarterback. Obviously, we see that. But I would say this. Like with Cam Newton's situation, I don't think Cam Newton, he will want to go to Seattle because Cam Newton wants to start. And Cam Newton, say go to Seattle and plays good, he's not starting again when Wilson comes back. So, like, to be honest, I feel like getting Cam, yes, he's better than Geno Smith, period. But I feel like at the same time, I don't know if I want to get Cam far as just the media because with Cam Newton seems like some stuff is just a distraction because he's Cam Newton, or his name is very big. And with Geno Smith, I mean, the guy is playing as best as he can play. I mean, the guy hasn't played in years. So I don't expect him in 2 weeks to just play good like that. So it takes time. So I believe over time he may play better. But far as right now, he's playing as best he can possibly play. He's not Russell Wilson. So to be honest, just have faith in him that he gets better by the week, hopefully, and get some wins. But I wouldn't just bail on Geno yet. Be patient and see what can happen. They're 2-5 right now, but still try to see you plays better over time and try to get some wins because they're in division still. They still maybe try to compete some to a degree, but I would not bail on Geno yet. Let's give it some time.
Interesting point there. Chris is saying give Geno some time. I think typically that's the good answer. I think typically giving things time to work out is the right answer. However, the Seahawks situation is interesting just for the simple fact that they play in what is probably the toughest division in the NFL.
Yeah.
You can't really afford to be dropping games, so I understand why they have an interest in Cam. Let's go with Let's go with Dan here. Dan, should they let it rock with Geno Smith? Is Cam Newton the answer, or maybe is there some other veteran or other quarterback out there that they should be making a move for?
Well, you got to look at the pieces that you have around him, right? If Cam comes in there, what's he going to do? Is he going to be able to push the ball down the field? Are you going to let him run the ball? Are you going to let him do things that he's comfortable with? Or are you going to ask him to be Russell Wilson back there? Because if you ask him to be Russell Wilson or do those things, then it's not going to work because they're two different quarterbacks. Yeah, Cam can move and he can do some things like that and things like that, but he doesn't extend the play to throw the ball down the field. Cam is extending the play and he's gonna leave. He's gonna try to run the ball. They use him as a battering ram, man, and I don't want to see. To be honest with you, I don't think it would be a good fit for Cam to go there, even though he probably wants to be on the team and play somewhere. It's not a good fit to go out there and probably make yourself look bad for another season. At this point in time, I would stick with Geno Smith, just because he doesn't do the same things that Cam does. I mean, that Russell Wilson does. He's better than Geno Smith. I will say that 100%. But this is a guy that you should have signed at the beginning of the year, if that's the case. He was let go at the beginning of the year. If you didn't trust Geno Smith, you shouldn't have trusted him at that point. You should have moved on from him. So at this point now in the season, 7 weeks in, if Cam comes there, he has to learn the playbook. He's just behind the 8 ball. And at that point in time, are you doing yourself more harm than good when you think about, what you got going? Now, if it's an emergency situation where Geno goes down, then sure, go get Cam. But I wouldn't bail on Geno Smith at this point in time, just because he's a little bit ahead of the game when it comes to the playbook, when it comes to what you want to do if you're the Seattle Seahawks. And you would have to really change up the entire offense for Cam. So I would probably stick with Geno at this point in time.
So sticking with Geno is the option for Dan. I do think it's interesting. Like, we've seen some other teams, as of recently, maybe try and make moves. The Jets brought in, Joe Flacco today? They made that trade to bring in Joe Flacco because Zach Wilson is out, and somehow, some way, the Jets found a. You know what, Eddie? I'm sorry. I'm realizing this is really just like a bashing episode today, so I didn't really mean for this to be a bully episode. But the Jets somehow found a way to draft a quarterback and then have a backup quarterback who actually has less NFL experience than the quarterback that they just drafted in the first round. Wild that they were able to pull that off. Bill.
So let me say this very quickly. Cam Newton is a particular kind of quarterback, and he fits a particular kind of team. But right now, Seattle's not that kind of team. There are teams that could use Cam, and I hope at some point Cam finds a job. The issue right now is that the Seahawks were a team that wanted to pound the ball and then throw those deep shots off play action. However, 2 things have happened. One, even when Russ is out there, they've really struggled to be consistent in moving the football. They've not run the ball that well. They've been a bottom 8 team in offensive efficiency this year with Russell Wilson, right? They've been sporadic, fits and starts. And the things that Geno Smith's best at is when you decide to spread him and shred him. 4 and 5 wide, you quick game, get the ball out of his hands, and then occasionally take a deep shot when somebody makes a mistake on defense. However, they aren't really built for that. So they would have to retool what they do or what they want to do to allow Geno to look at his best. I don't know if they're going to do that. I have a feeling they're going to try to shoehorn him into their existing game plan. And the guys that they should go after are no longer available, really. The person who would probably fit what they do best is Mr. Philip Walker, a.k.a. Pete Jr., a.k.a. PJ Walker, but they have to make a trade for him, right, as we talked about. The free agent quarterback market is not awesome right now. There's a lot of guys who either are older players or guys who are so inexperienced and so raw that they couldn't stick on a roster already, right? Or you can blow on a call to Robert Griffin III and find out if he's still got that itch, wants to come down out of the booth. but there's not a great bunch of alternatives. And people keep bringing up Cam. And one, I don't think he's 100% healthy. I truly believe he's not 100% healthy. I think that what we saw in New England was a guy gutting it out, hoping that people would see how tough he was and see what he was trying to get done, even though he clearly wasn't feeling 100%, and reward him with a contract and reward him with a chance to start again, and that didn't happen. So I'm hoping he's using this time to get 100% healthy and then go back at it hammer and tongs if he wants to keep playing. I think he still has the potential to be an NFL starter, but I don't think we've seen him healthy in a while. But the situation they painted themselves into almost guarantees they have to stick with Geno, at least for the short term. Otherwise, they have to make a trade. Maybe do they trade for someone like Brett Hundley? Do they trade for someone like PJ? Do they trade? I mean, that's what they have to do, right? I mean, the players who you could even just sort of piece it together for a couple of games with are all on someone's roster already.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So everyone is kind of giving the same input of stay pat with Geno Smith. Interesting. Eddie, what do you think?
So the Seahawks season is pretty much over. I know what Chris J said about hopefully they could, string a couple of wins here and there, but the season's over for me. They had that chance last night against the Saints. They couldn't get it done. And, I do agree with everyone here. I would stick with Geno because of the fact that all the struggles that is happening so far, I wouldn't place it only on Geno Smith. And you look at the play calling, and I just see how predictable and how terrible it's been the past couple of games. You have 144 rushing yards against the Steelers, and you expect to do the same thing against the Saints. Well, you only have 90 rushing yards, and you have no plan B. What's your plan B to get this thing moving? I feel like the play calling is too scary when it comes to letting Geno rip the ball down the field. In hindsight, that's not a bad idea because, as we've seen before, Geno Smith is not that guy. 31 years of age. He's been in the league for how long? He's still making the same kind of mistakes, especially last night. We took 2 bad sacks in the last drive. And in the Steelers game, the Rams game, he had the first play that he gets the ball back from a defense that forces a 3-and-out turnover is the first play. Garbage. Can't do that. But, I don't think Cam fits this scheme. I think that this team was too reliant on 3 players, Russell Wilson, DK Metcalf, and Tyler Lockett. Now that one of those dragons is no longer there, it's more so disturbing at how they don't have a backup plan as opposed to, the QB struggles and what Geno Smith is doing at this point. And I don't think that, one player is going to fix that. So they have a lot of pieces that need to be fixed right now. The offensive line is terrible. And it's sad to say that this team does not have a first-round draft pick, a second-round draft pick in next year's draft because you know who that belongs to? The New York Jets. So there you have it right there, okay? And now, regarding Cam Newton, I think it'll be more so of a hard fit for him to come into. As we all alluded to, it's going to be a tough environment, a tough scheme to learn. And I don't really think Cam Newton's it's an inspiring QB aside from Geno Smith. I'm not sure if he's that guy that can get the job done. He's more athletic, better player, but the season is pretty much over. So at this point, rock with Geno Smith until Russell Wilson comes back.
Okay, everyone is kind of riding with Geno Smith. I don't think it's because we have that much faith in Geno Smith, just more so because the other options are not particularly up to snuff.
Right, and unless they've played in your system before, it's going to take a couple weeks before they're ready to go anyway.
Mm-hmm.
I agree. And then with Cam, with learning like learning a whole new playbook is not easy. And going to a different system, different player, find that chemistry takes time. So with Geno, 2-5 now, so you might as well keep Geno and just get better and better. Try to get better as much as you can because the guy's been there since day one, since the start of the season. So you're right with Geno.
Interesting.
I
I agree too.
Let me ask you this: how many more weeks do we see Russell Wilson and his imaginary friends before he's actually back in the lineup?
Every week until he's back in the lineup.
I would say
he's going to make Instagram posts about it. He's going to be pretending to throw to his wife Sierra, who's been running routes. He's going to do it up big. He's not going to mess around with it.
So how many more weeks though of this? How many more? When do we think he'll be back?
It's probably 4 weeks, 3-4 weeks.
About 4 weeks, I think.
Yeah.
You see him for 4 weeks, and I think the funniest thing when he's doing that whole little imaginary friends thing is that the actual kneel down and calling a play in the huddle. That's
does
the
it all.
funniest part to me. I'm like,
Because he doesn't have to do anything.
You can do the play, but why are you doing the huddle, man?
No,
He misses football.
You can't just have a mushroom coat and mushroom pants. You have to have a mushroom belt. You have to coordinate.
Listen,
He's doing it all.
Dan,
doing
I'm gonna tell
a
you,
lot. He's doing the most.
like my father told me, if you're going to do anything, don't do it half-assed. So if you're gonna do it, you do it to the best of your abilities.
If I was,
I got you.
There
I
we
got
go.
Yes.
Russell Wilson is just sticking true to the lessons that he was taught as a young man, and I respect it.
I mean, if I was Russell Wilson, if I was him, I would take my time because the season pretty much basically over. They're 2-5. They're in a tough division. Man, Sierra, she's your wife. I take my time. I get my body rubs.
Yep.
Get my kisses. I be chilling at the crib with my beautiful fine wife. I take my time because the season is around. They're not winning the division. They ain't making the playoffs. Take your time with your beautiful wife. Go on vacation. Do what you got to do because the season's over. Period.
This is how I know that you're not Russell Wilson, because right now Russell Wilson has Sierra running routes. He's got Sierra lining up at Mike and pretending to blitz in the backyard.
She's calling plays right now for him. Okay, while she's the offensive coordinator, so she's the one that's in his ear, giving him the plays to run in his 2-minute drill with his imaginary friends.
There you go.
That's it.
All righty. Well, Russell Wilson, we love you. Don't ever think that we don't on this show, because I absolutely do adore you. But with that being said, go ahead, throw up your fours, ladies and gentlemen, because it is time for the fourth quarter. All right. So I said we had a lot on today's slate. We've gotten to a lot of good topics, but now it's time to really have some fun. Like, it's time for the really fun topic, right? So the Chiefs flat out stink this year, right? Like, without question, absolute garbage right now. Okay. This was a team that just last year we were talking about they were on the cusp of becoming the next great dynasty in the NFL. I want to know, is the dynasty over? Can the Chiefs get it together? But most importantly, this year, will the Chiefs make the playoffs? They currently sit 11th in the conference. The floor is yours. Dan, we'll start with you.
I'm gonna say no. I'm gonna say no to them making the playoffs. And the reason being is because their defense is just atrocious. It's bad, right? So when you have your defenses playing so pathetic and so poor, it allows your offense, which was able to take chances and do all these wild and crazy things, now the pressure is on them to even do more, right? And that's the problem that Mahomes is having. A lot of people are saying Mahomes been figured out. Has Andy Reid's system been figured out? Do they need to go in a different direction? No, Andy Reid's system works. His plays work. But the problem is that Pat Mahomes knows that, hey, my defense is not worth a dime right now, and I need to go score as many points as possible. So he's taking even more chances. And some of the things that he was getting away with, he's not getting away with. No-look passes, he's not getting away with. The sidearm stuff, he's not getting away with some of those things. And it's because, the opposition is now in a situation of power where they can kind of sit back and wait for him to do these things and kind of take some of that stuff away. So the defense is not going to be there. I don't see the defense turning itself around. I think they can score. They can score with the best of anybody. But when the pressure is on you to really score that many points, then something's going to go wrong. It always does. This is the NFL. It's the law of averages. It happens every single year. So if you can't stop somebody at some point, you're not going to go far into the playoffs. You're not going to have a decent playoff run. So that's their issue right now. That defensive side of the ball, Pat Mahomes has 18 touchdowns. He has 9 interceptions as well, and that's because the opposition is now able to kind of sit back and wait on him to make a mistake because they know he has to take these chances, and he's taken even more than he was previously.
Yeah, I think that's been the main thing that we've seen with this defense before, is that this defense has always kind of been at the very, like, they've been bad but kind of hovered around mediocrity, and then they've kind of been able to flip that switch and they'll play elite defenses in spurts. I don't see that in them this year. I don't see them being able to flip that switch. Eddie, I'm going to you. Are the Chiefs making the playoffs this year?
Yeah, they are. It's still hope. It's still hope for the Chiefs. And listen, I know what's going on right now, but still, there are those same players that are still on the same side that was on that championship run a couple of years ago. So there's quite some reason for me to believe that they can still make a run for the playoffs. Now, the Chiefs, and I think Bill can attest to this, for Patrick Mahomes coming out of college, these turnovers and him being, turnover-esque, it happened in Texas Tech. But for some reason, that didn't translate into his couple of years in the NFL, his first couple of years, and we all just forgot about it. He was taking care of the football, and we all just saw this great quarterback, and now it's finally catching up with him up until this point, and we see, how Patrick Mahomes is really playing bad, along with the whole offense struggling and everything. But I will say this, he is a quarterback who, when healthy and when it's playing the best, is the best quarterback in the league by far, in my opinion. And on top of that, we're going to go to defense. Defense is bad. It's always been bad, in my opinion, but because the offense was able to give them leads to try and protect, they would play up to the challenge. Now it's the other side where the defense has to try and keep this offense in the game, and they're getting exposed for it because they can't do that. They're just not that great at all. Actually terrible. So look at all these factors, and I see the Chiefs, they have a tough run of games coming up. So that'll really tell me if they're up to the challenge and if this is the same side that was a shoo-in for the Super Bowl this year and the previous years as well too. But I still believe in the Chiefs. I think that they're 3-4, which is not terrible. It's not great either, but it's still a tight race in the conference. And I think that as the season goes on, some of these teams will start to unravel. We'll get to see who they really are, and they might not be the contenders that we think they are. So that could bode well for the Chiefs in their favor. But right now they're playing bad. But it just takes a good run of games and a good performance by Patrick Mahomes to make everything happen. So, and if they do get in the playoffs, if he's playing that well, I think we would all be more comfortable picking the Chiefs in some of these matchups, despite how badly the defense is performing at that time. So I have high hope for the Chiefs.
Okay. Eddie, not ready to put the knife in the Chiefs just yet. I appreciate it. All right, Bill, you tell me now, what's going on with the Chiefs? Are they going to make the playoffs this year?
Oh, sorry. There's 3 levels of what's going on with the Chiefs, right? There's X's and O's, Jimmy's and the Joes, and the TOs. So the first thing is X's and O's. Teams, and everyone talks about, quote unquote, figuring out. There's nothing, people have been doing this for a while. It's more effective than it was before. They're playing a lot of soft, 2 deep, occasionally quarters, a lot of 2-man also. And there's ways to attack that, but the play calling has been very stubborn. But I'm going to get to that in a moment. So in terms of DVOA, which is defense adjusted value over average, their defense is 31st. There's only 32 teams, so that's the second worst. Their offense is still top 5, in fact, number 5 to be exact, in both DVOA and in yards per play, right? They're number 2 in the NFL. Number 5 in the NFL in yards per play at 6.2. Now, that's the same as 2019 and 1/10 of a yard off from last year. They were 6.3. So the offense is still very potent. The issues are that teams are pressuring Mahomes from the right side and keeping around him, right? They're sometimes they're sacking him, but they're definitely keeping around him to try to keep him from having freedom of movement, particularly to his passing arm side. So when he escapes the pocket, he's not having that freedom that he had before. And since he's not stepping up in the pocket, which is a problem because that's the strength of the offensive line. The guard center guard part is the best part. Their tackle play, which I'll get to in a moment, not awesome. But the best part of that offensive line is Humphrey and the two guards. So because of all that too high safety look, and they're generally not blitzing because he kills you when you blitz, but they are getting pressure, once again, pushing him to that same side pretty much all the time. If you watch a lot, you see they're pushing him to the same side pretty much all the time. So they have to get back to taking what the offense is giving you. And Andy Reid is a great designer of screens and draws. I don't know why he's not calling more of them, because you could gash the living daylights out of what a lot of these teams are doing if you call more screens and draws. And just come out in some heavy run looks and just run the ball down some people's throats when they're coming in those soft, deep man unders. Embrace, and for Mahomes, embrace a little bit of your inner Alex Smith. Run the ball a little bit more and become a little bit of a check down Charlie, because you could gash, especially with some of the talent they have on this team. And last but not least, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, no offense to him. He's a small but not very fast running back, and he's limited. Jet McKinnon, Jarek is his given name, but his nickname's Jet for a reason, gives you big play potential even on checkdowns. They frankly should use him more. They need to stay patient. He needs to step up in the pocket. And to quote, I guess he's sort of now a football consultant, as well as being a martial artist, actor, and philosopher. Jun Fan Lee, but you know him as Bruce Lee, be water, my friend. Empty your mind. Be formless, shapeless like water. You put water in a cup, it becomes the cup. You put water in a bottle, it becomes the bottle. You put water in a teapot, it becomes the teapot. Water can flow or it can crash. Be water, my friends. Stop trying to impose what you think your offense should be onto defenses. Let the defense tell you what your offense should be doing. And if you do that, you'll go back to being a very, very good team. Now, the Jimmys and the Joes issues. I'm a big fan of Brett Veach, and he did a really good job at one point, but they've really begun missing a lot in the draft recently. They got literally nothing. And I'm not joking when I say nothing out of the 2018 draft. Breland Speaks, Derek Nottie, who is a rotational player, Dorian O'Daniel, Armani Watts, Tremont Smith, Khalil McKenzie. Most of those guys aren't even on the team, right? 2020, slightly better. L'Jarius Sneed has been a real contributor. Lucas Niang would be starting if he weren't hurt. Clyde Edwards-Helaire, overdrafted, not super productive. Willie Gay, very athletic, but doesn't seem to know where he's going. And then Mike Dana and Bo Peep Keys didn't make the team. And 2019, McCole Hardman has been, third, fourth receiver, but not a bad player. Juan Thornhill will become the starter, hopefully now. No offense to Dan Sorensen, who's made some great plays in the past, but he's very limited in coverage, and he's been exploited terribly recently. I like Kalen Saunders. I think he's going to become something. Rashawn Fitton has been a good player. Darwin Thompson, I think, is now gone, and Nick Allegretti, I believe, is also gone. So they haven't gotten as much out of their draft as they were getting, but the big thing has been the swings and misses in free agency. Frank Clark is the 100th rated player at his position. 100th. That means that not only is he not as good as any of the starting defensive ends, right? Because there's 64 of those. He's not as good as a bunch of the backup defensive ends in the NFL. And they gave him $63 million. And also they gave up draft picks that they're going to miss and are missing, in fact, to get him. So this team has hurt itself in free agency. They have signed some free agents, and the other one that's really sort of killed them is Orlando Brown Jr. And I know some people felt like they were dunking on those of us who study, athletic performance when he had one of the worst combines in history, and he has a relative athletic score of 0.72, not 7.2, 0.72, the lowest on record. And he had a pretty decent run with his time when he was in the Ravens. The Ravens are very run heavy, and even their passing concepts don't challenge you to take on a lot of redirection. They do a fair amount of helping. They use a fullback a lot. You're not left on the island nearly as much. But my gosh, the Chiefs love their 5-man protections. And when my buddy Bud Dupree came into the last game against the Chiefs, he had gone without a sack since he left Pittsburgh. But when he saw Orlando Brown Jr. come, he said, I'm about to earn my money tonight. He was killing Pat Mahomes. So they have athletic limitations. They've overspent at some of the positions where you shouldn't overspend, and they've missed big time, both in the draft and free agency. So the total talent level of this team has steadily begun going down. And people have sort of papered it over because Pat Mahomes, cures all ills. But it's catching up with them as a team. And I'm a big Brett Veach fan, but they've got to do better. They've got to hit on their now reduced number of draft picks they have because of some of the things they've done in terms of making trades and obviously signing people in free agency. It's tied up a lot of money. And then 2, they've got to really, 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 really commit running the football, which I know, for whatever reason they have trouble doing, but just do it. Just do it. I promise. It won't hurt. In fact, it'll keep you from destroying the most important part of your franchise, which is Patrick LeVon Mahomes II. If you keep him healthy, eventually things will get better. But if you don't, it's all going to be lost.
Yeah, I was going to say, you paid him what, I believe, over the next 10 years, almost $500 million.
$500 million. Yeah, that's correct, my friend. Yes.
And I think that, I was someone who they spent a lot of money on this offensive line during the offseason. Put a lot of capital into it, and it has not worked out. And
because, once again, Tooney is playing hurt. He's going to be fine, right? Yeah. Creed Humphrey is going to be a stud, and I like what they've done with Trey Smith. That's the best part of their offensive line, but the tackle play has been. And Orlando Brown Jr., and once again, I have nothing personal against him, but he's just the worst athlete at that position, maybe ever, but certainly in recent memory. A .72 relative athletic score. I don't know how to put that in perspective and how terrible that is.
That's bad, man. That's bad.
It is the worst ever.
That's bad.
Whew. Mr. Jordan, go ahead and wrap us up here. Chiefs making the playoffs this year?
Have y'all ever heard that song by A Boogie with a Hoodie called Drowning? Drowning. All I got to say is the Chiefs are drowning. They are not going to the playoffs. They are 3-4. The past couple of weeks, I've been watching them play. The turnovers are just keep piling up. Patrick Mahomes, he has the most talented quarterback, yes. But the past couple of weeks, he does throws that no one ever else does. And now it's caught up with him. All the no look, behind the back, behind the head, passing, throwing passes is very poor, ill-advised. Seeing Mahomes, he's not the problem, but the Chiefs have no defense. And then the run game. What run game? They have no run game. So they're a pass-first offense. So Patrick Mahomes, they're passing the football. So a run game is not really going to happen because they have no run game whatsoever. The Chiefs can't even establish a run game, period. So, seeing their offense, the Chargers 4-2 better than the Chiefs. The Raiders 5-2. The Broncos are not that very good, but far as the Raiders and the Chargers, those two teams alone, they're going to be better than the Chiefs. The Chiefs just right now, things are catching up to them because it seems like to me they can score points, but in sports, people, we all play sports. Defense wins championships, and the Chiefs will not make the playoffs. Patrick Mahomes, he's a bad man, yes, but we will not see that light-skinned brother in the playoffs this year. He will be home watching like us with his curls, chilling with his kid, doing whatever he does. The Chiefs are a good team, but they will not make the playoffs. It's just right now they're in the hole, and I don't see them get out of the hole. They're sunk too deep. They drowning. They can't come back up. They need breath. They need air. And so, I feel bad for them this year because I picked them going to the Super Bowl, but I was wrong. And guess what? The Bills going to the Super Bowl. The Buffalo Bills are the team for the AFC. Call it how I see it. Patrick Mahomes is not the best quarterback in the league right now. He's not. Tom Brady playing better than him. Josh Allen playing better than him. It's a lot of quarterbacks that's having a great season this year. Patrick Mahomes, he, far as talent-wise, yes. But play this year, he's not the best in the league. Call it how I see it.
Okay. So, Eddie, you seem to be the only one who hasn't given up on the Chiefs. I want to ask the rest of you, since the Chiefs aren't going to make it, who's the team that replaces them? Who's going to get that wild card if it's not the Chiefs? Because I think we can kind of agree that they're not going to win their division. Either the Chargers or the Raiders will win it. So if the Chiefs were to make it, they would have to make it as a wild card. What team beats them out for that last wild card spot?
I'm gonna say a team that we talked about earlier, Cincinnati. I think Cincinnati is going to be a team that sneaks in there as a wild card team, and they're gonna take that team.
All right, Bill.
That's a great question. I'm going to agree. I think Cincinnati, and of course the Chargers are another team that. I mean, it's between those two teams to me. I think the Chargers are going to be a playoff team as well. So I think those are your wild card teams, right? I think it's the Chargers and the Bengals for me on the AFC side.
Chris?
I would say Cincinnati. You have like a ton of teams because this year so many teams are about 5-2, 6-1. So I would say either the Chargers or the Bengals, maybe the Raiders. Like there's a ton of teams that can get that wild card spot, but I just don't. The Ravens might get it. I just don't think the Chiefs will get it this year because these next couple of weeks, they have the Giants, Green Bay, the Raiders, and the Cowboys. They got some tough games coming up, people. And right now, they ain't beating Dallas. They ain't beating Green Bay. They ain't beating the Raiders. They'll beat the Giants. You know what I'm saying? They'll beat the Giants. But those three teams alone, they're not beating them right now. Then the Chargers again in the year. Right now, this team has some tough games coming up, and I don't see them beat none of those teams. For the Cowboys, how Dak Prescott look, they rolling. The Green Bay is rolling. The Raiders rolling. They are not better than those three teams right now. They're not. They're going to lose those games. I'm calling it right now. I'm a sidekick. That's so Raven. I see the future.
I'll be honest with you, too. In order for them to make the playoffs, they have to win their division, in my opinion. I don't think I think, and for them to win their division, that means they have to leapfrog two teams because there are two teams that are playing exponentially better than them right now. I think there's a scenario where in the AFC North, three teams might be able to make the playoffs from the NFC North. Right. And that's the Cleveland Browns, Cincinnati Bengals, and the Baltimore Ravens. So I think that kind of puts them on the outs when it comes to I see you. But that puts them on the outs. That puts them on the outs. You know, the Chiefs on the outs when it comes to the playoffs.
It's going to be a very, very interesting season. I also had the Chiefs making it back to the Super Bowl. I had Chiefs and Rams. My pick right now is not looking good on the AFC side. Still feel pretty good about the Rams making it, but as of right now, the Chiefs have some serious concerns. But we've played four whole quarters, ladies and gentlemen, and it is time to announce a winner. Alrighty, and another great episode, another great show from you all. Yes, you all were all great. Edwin getting some love from his podcast teammate there. Will in the comments. Love it, love it, love it. But we do have to send some people to the back before we announce a winner. So tonight, the individual that we are going to send to the back first is actually Mr. Eddie. We're going to send you to the back, even though Will did just give you the shout out. I apologize, Eddie. This did just kind of end up being the bullying. This did just kind of end up being the Bully Eddie episode. Don't get it twisted. We absolutely love you here. Okay, you are always, always welcome. But today, we're going to send you to the back first. Please stick around. We'll have the people say goodbye to you in a second there. Next up.
It was a strong effort from Eddie this week, though.
Eddie, listen. Eddie really took it on the shins today. He took it on the shins. I mean, being a Jets fan, you kind of take it on the shins every week. It's tough. What it is.
It's tough.
It's a rough lifestyle. You know, it's not one that I would ever choose. It's not one that I don't think anyone would choose, but he lives it, and we have to salute him. But
We do.
next up, we are going to send one of our Nuts and Bolts Sports own to the back, and that is Mr. Bill Carroll. We are going to send you to the back.
All right.
Next up, another great showing. We're going to send you back now. And then there were two, Mr. Christopher Jordan and Mr. Dan Goodwin. I don't think either of you, this is both of you, this is your second time being on the show this season, correct?
It
The
is.
second
Neither
time.
one of you have gotten a W.
the
Neither one of
first
you have gotten a
time-
W yet.
Yeah, the first time I came this far and lost. The first time.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah,
Okay.
Yeah.
I think
So
the same
someone's
thing
going to
for
get
me.
their first W tonight. Someone's going to
Yeah.
get their first W tonight. Well, in the words of Ricky Bobby, if you ain't first, you're last. Or something like that, I believe is how it goes. But our first place winner is going to be Mr. Dan Goodwin today. So, Mr. Christopher, we are going to send you to the back. Dan, you get your first W of the season. FaceTime
Thank you.
is all yours. You get the full minute to talk about whatever it is you want. By all means, FaceTime is yours. You deserve it, my brother. Go ahead and enjoy.
I appreciate it. Appreciate it very much. Thank you guys for having me once again. And my opponents today, you guys all did an excellent job. So I'm thoroughly impressed with your knowledge of the game and your knowledge of the teams that we talked about today. You know, the NFL is a different league. Let's put it that way. There's a lot of things that go on in the NFL. And we've seen some things that are going on in the NFL, whether it be what's going on with Houston Texans, whether it be what happened with the Raiders, whether it be all these different things and different scenarios that pop up in the NFL. And one of the things that I like to do is hold people accountable, hold entities accountable, whatever the case may be. And the reason I say that is because sometimes things don't get reported that should be reported. Things don't get talked about that should be talked about. And a lot of times, and I give nuts and bolts and some of the people that do writings and give their opinions on things. I give you all the kudos in the world because you do that. You carry that forward, and you take that lantern, you might say, or that flame, and you take it everywhere with you. And that's the same thing that I do. That's what we do at Three Kings of the Midway podcast. We believe in being honest. We believe in telling the truth, and we believe that you can be a fan of your team, but you don't have to sell false goods, right? You don't have to fake it, right? You don't have to make things up and it be, this way or that way. You call it how it is. I was one of the people that said, hey, I don't think Chicago would get a black quarterback. And I believe that with 100%. And true enough, we were able to draft Justin Fields. So I gave credit where credit was due. But at the same time, I think he's been hindered in many different ways when it comes to our coaching staff, when it comes to everything that he's been put through in this first portion of his career. And I think it's a travesty because a lot of times with black quarterbacks, what is done is they're thrown to the wolves. You don't give them the talent. You don't give them the necessary tools to let them be successful. You say, hey, this young man is strong. He's big. He's athletic. Let him go out there and do it. And I'm tired of seeing that type of thing. I want them to have the same ability, same tools, the same treasure chest, you might say, that another quarterback can walk into. Many quarterbacks get drafted and they go into the right system. And when you talk about a system, we're talking about a system and its coaching staff. Because a system, the best offensive coordinators, and I'm speaking directly to Matt Nagy in this, the best offensive coordinators are guys who are able to adjust, are guys who are able to put their specific teams and those specific players in positions to win based on their skill sets. And when you pay no attention to their skill set and you say, hey, it's my system is going to work, then you put yourself above the team, above all the players in the locker room. And I think that's a travesty. We've seen it happen. John Gruden, it happened with him. They talked about the sidelines and how chaotic they were with John Gruden there. with the other head coach, the interim that they have there now, there's a level of calm. There's not, you're not afraid to go back to the sideline because you're going to get cursed out, and sometimes that's needed. But sometimes you have to look at your players and see, who is this player? How does he respond to it? And then you deal with that person. There are good coaches and there are bad coaches. And in the NFL, we have to weed through the bad coaches. We have to see them for who they are. Even though they may be a nice guy and they may, tell stories and joke with you in interviews. At the end of the day, are they doing the best things for the team, or are they putting their own egos first in the situation? So that was my little bit of FaceTime. That's what I talk about, and I'm going to continue doing it. So I hope y'all listen to Three Kings of the Midway. We're going to shed some light on some weird things that Matt Nagy has been doing to my Chicago Bears and to the players in that locker room.
Great stuff, Dan. Great stuff. And one of my favorite tweets that I saw, I think it was a couple days ago. I think it might have been Sunday night or Sunday afternoon, right after the game. I believe one of your co-hosts tweeted out, "Keep messing around, and the name of this podcast will be the Three Kings of the United Center real quick."
Yeah.
And I thought that was a top tier tweet.
Yeah. It was. I followed it up and I said it's going to be Three Kings of the Madhouse on Madison, which is where the Bulls play.
Yeah. Listen, I agree with you 1,000%. I think that Justin Fields is becoming, unfortunately, victim to some of the things that many quarterbacks of his complexion have dealt with before. The good news is that, and obviously we want him to be healthy and safe, and we want him to make it through. The good news is that Matt Nagy actually has COVID this week, so Bill Lazor will probably be calling plays, which whenever he calls plays, it seems like this offense puts up 30 points. So maybe it's a good thing. We'll see. Playing against San Francisco, it's a tough defense. But like you said, I believe that Justin Fields has everything you need to be a successful quarterback in this league. I'm a guy who's a firm believer that more quarterbacks are ruined than there are guys that just can't make it in the NFL.
Yes.
Because everyone that if you're getting drafted, you're talented. Like, especially if you're getting drafted in those first 3 rounds, like, you are an extremely talented individual. You have the talent to make it in the NFL.
I brought this up once before. How many franchises do you trust to develop a young quarterback?
Yeah.
Think about it. How many actual NFL franchises do you truly trust to develop a young quarterback? I bet it'll fit on one hand with fingers left over.
Yeah.
I'm gonna just a little preliminary in our podcast coming up this week. I'm gonna give 5 different players that have said something not negative about Matt Nagy, just questioned it, and he doesn't play them anymore. They're on the roster, and they don't get any run. They get no snaps.
Mm-hmm.
5 different players, and it happens over and over and over. Yep.
Hopefully this is Nagy's last year in Chicago. Hopefully they move on from him. We shall see. But I want to thank you all. All of you gentlemen were terrific tonight. Mr. Dan Goodwin, you were our winner tonight. Go ahead and let the people know where they can find you at, some of the things you got going on.
Very deserving, too.
I appreciate it very much. Thank you, fellas. You can find me on Twitter at Dan Goodwin III, of course. We have a Three Kings of the Midway podcast. Myself, I have 2 co-hosts. One is Ill Will. The other is Devori Nesby. And we get on there and we tell the truth. We talk about the Bears. We talk about what's going on. We're starting up the YouTube, so you'll be able to see it live as well. So, we just get on there. We have fun, man. We just have a good time. We tell the truth and let the chips fall where they may. So we appreciate it. Once again, thanks for having me on. I really appreciated it.
Absolutely. And also, Will, you're a Giants fan. It's not like you know a whole bunch about winning either. Will's throwing shade at people in the comments here. You're a Giants fan. Your quarterback is Daniel Jones, and your GM is David Gettleman. Relax, Will.
The guy that fell down after running 70 yards down the middle
Yep,
of the field.
exactly. Yeah, Turf Monster got him. Yeah.
Could
Well,
not be my quarterback.
Once again, we thank you, Dan. Of course, always appreciated to have you on the show, and of course, congratulations on the W tonight.
Thank you.
All right, Mr. Eddie, let the people know what you got going on, where they can follow you at, all that other good stuff.
All right, guys, same old stuff. You guys can follow me on Twitter at TheRoadEddie03. I'm actually now back to writing articles, so make sure you stay tuned for that on the Nuts and Bolts Sports website, and also continue to support our writers and podcasters on the website as well too. We all produce really great work, and I know that you see our grind, so hopefully you guys can stick with us. And last but not least, shout out to my co-host Will for Game Breakers. We have a new episode coming out. A lot of episodes actually coming out this week, so stay tuned for that. We'll keep pushing out content, breaking down the game, and give us some feedback as well too as to what you want to hear in the future. And I'll see you guys soon.
Absolutely. Make sure you guys go show Eddie some love. He's a damn Jets fan, for Christ's sake. Like he needs as much love and help as he can possibly get. Okay, like just let's go ahead. Let's make it easier on Eddie. Okay. Alrighty, and Mr. Bill Carroll, go ahead again. Love having you on. Super excited whenever you're on the show. Go ahead and let the people know what you got going on there.
So I guess somewhat inspired by tonight, I think I'm going to write an article on how to fix the Kansas City Chiefs offense. So that should be popping up at Nuts and Bolts Sports soon. I also am working on the players of the week, looking back at last week in college football. That should pop up tomorrow morning on Nuts and Bolts at the Division III, NAIA, Division II, FCS, and FBS level, both offense and defense. And you can find me either, as if you're watching, as you see there, at 11 Bravo, that's the word, ELEVENBRAVO 138. And since there's 2 Twitter feeds, there's no waiting, or at capital B, capital C, ARROLL 138. And as always, I'm digging deep into the draft. I'm watching hundreds of football players, and my Scouts Notebook's going to pop up soon. I keep trying to get around to it, and other stuff gets in the way, but you should be getting a couple of things from my Scouts Notebook also on Nuts and Bolts soon.
Alrighty, well, make sure you all check out all of the content that he puts out. Like I said, Bill is one of the most knowledgeable individuals I know when it comes to the sport of NFL. He's fantastic. Make sure you all are checking out everything that he puts out. Once again, thank you so much for being on the show today, Mr. Carroll. And Mr. Jordan, go ahead. Let the people know where they can check you out at. Let the people know everything you got going on here, okay?
Appreciate it, man. First off, I just want to thank y'all. Thank you for coming on the show tonight, man. It was a great show. Glad to come on anytime and talk sports with you. Always fun to coming on. And for the people watching this show, you can follow me on IG, @2smooth_Chris, and shut up and listen. As far as I put out shows talking about sports, NBA, NFL, short clips about what I do. My podcast, Shut Up Listen Podcast on Spotify, the podcast app on Apple phones. I talk about pretty much sports. I love sports. Talk about business, entrepreneurs, NFL, NBA, whatever I talk about. I'm always putting out content. Twitter, I see that the greatest. I'm always putting out content. I write articles every other day. It seems like about so many stuff towards sports. I'm in it for the long haul, trying to just pursue my long-term goal and making it happen. Always being consistent and putting out work. And for people watching out there, always strive for greatness. Don't ever give up and keep pushing.
Wonderful. Oh, whoops. Didn't mean to drop you out just yet. Wonderful words of inspiration from Mr. Jordan there. Like I said, as always, love having you on the show, man. You know you have an open door whenever you want to be on. I'm sure we'll have you on in the future. Thank you so much. Keep up the grind, my brother. You absolutely deserve it.
My show too, man. Talk about some stuff too, man.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely.
I'll be headed back to the GA, man. Back to my home state. You definitely got to link up and connect, man.
Absolutely. You know we will. Thank you for coming on the show.
Yes, sir, man. Blessed night.
Yes, sir. Alrighty, so that wraps up another wonderful episode of No Huddle Necessary. Again, thank you all. I know we kind of did this on the fly. We usually do this on a Wednesday. Had to get it done on a Tuesday today. Had some scheduling things going on. But thank you all so much for watching. Thank you all for being a part of the show. Thank you to all of our guests. You all, again, were absolutely incredible. You all are the ones that make the show really entertaining. I just kind of get to sit back and enjoy it. So thank you all so much for being on. Thank you all for watching. And, of course, I will see you all next Wednesday. Peace.